Welcome, Vault Hunters, to the Borderlands of Pandora. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with Borderlands. This movie came to digital really quickly because of how terribly it did in theaters. So, for those who don't know, Borderlands is a video game series, a first person shooter series that is made by Gearbox. And it is an extremely popular series for its stylization, witty humor, and amazing character work. It not only has three mainline games, but a sort of pre-sequel as well, and two spin-offs called Tales from the Borderlands and New Tales from the Borderlands, which are my biggest inclusion in the series. Because I've tried to play a little bit of Borderlands 2, and I'm not a big FPS fan as it is. I couldn't get into the gameplay. It's like, I like the characters, I like the humor, I like the story. I just do not enjoy the gameplay in any way, shape, or form. But I love Tales from the Borderlands. The first one was done by Telltale, and the second one, I think, was just done by Gearbox. But those games are great, and because again, they're narrative based adventure games, just like other Telltale games are, like Telltale's The Walking Dead or whatnot, The Wolf Among Us, games like that. And that's more my game. That's more my kind of style because of how much I put into the story and characters above stuff like gameplay or whatnot. FPS games don't appeal to me for the most part. I'm sorry, they just don't. So most of my knowledge of Borderlands comes from those games. And just things that I hear around. Because people talk about these games. So there's things that I've heard here and there. I've seen some random clips, heard some random voice lines. And I've even seen a couple of videos here and there explain some of the lore, such as with like Handsome Jack and whatnot. But most of my knowledge comes from the Tales from the Borderlands, which does give some lore into characters and events from the other games, but mostly sticks to its own lore as well. And I also actually have a friend who is a voice actor in the games, Kieran Strange. He does voice acting in, I believe, number 3, Tales from the Borderlands 2, and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is another spin-off of the series, which is like D&D kind of style. I believe that Kieran is in those 3. And Borderlands 4 has been announced, so they might be in 4 as well. I'm not sure yet. I don't know. But of course nothing has been really announced other than 4 is happening, so I guess no one knows yet. But yeah, so that's kind of where my knowledge of Borderlands comes from. So I'm what you would call like a really casual fan. Now, this movie has received a lot of negativity, not just from fans, but from people who just say it's not a well-made movie. But I have heard some people say that it's really not that bad. It's been, like, from what I've seen, I would say about 75% negative, 25% positive. I have seen no one, though, say it's, like, amazing. It's not like on the Sonic movies level for video game adaptations or whatnot, but it's... I don't think anyone genuinely believes it's on the level of something as bad as, like, the original late 80s Super Mario Bros. Movie or anything like that. I don't think anyone actually believes that. The people who hate on it just say it's bad, but they're not like saying it's like the worst thing ever, from what I've seen. Um, Now, I don't know all of the characters that well who are in this. Um, by the way, this has an insanely star-studded cast, which a lot of people are saying is a crutch to hide from the fact that most of the characters are, in their opinion, done poorly. I don't know most of the characters in this, so I won't have like a huge amount of knowledge about how well they're adapted and everything in terms of their lore, personalities, etc. The only character I really can tell anything notable about is Tiny Tina, because I have seen quite a few clips and heard a lot of voice lines from her throughout the years, and from what I can tell, they really dialed back on Tiny Tina's craziness. Ariana Greenblatt plays her in this. She was in the Barbie movie and other things as well. Um, they really seem to like make her less crazy and weird and everything. I guess they wanted to like make it more quote unquote realistic in terms of a personality. But that's like the only thing like I really noticed in terms of personality. I know some of like the characters are like aged up and whatnot, like Lilith, um, being portrayed by Kate Blanchett. Like the character's not normally supposed to be that up there in age. Lilith is supposed to be pretty young, from what I've heard. But like I said, a lot of that I don't have a huge amount of knowledge into. I've just heard what other people have said. Um, from what I have seen, again in the trailers, Claptrap, who is voiced by Jack Black in this, seems to be Claptrap. It's like I have no real complaints about the portrayal there. Like that, it feels like what I have seen of Claptrap. Now I've also seen, like I said, I've seen the trailers, so I've seen what a lot of the costumes and everything look like, and they look amazing. Like, as much as people might have issues with the story or the character portrayals or whatnot, I haven't really heard a lot of people like complaining about the store or about the costume design and the set design and all. From everything that I've seen, it seems it looks exactly correct. I've only heard like maybe like a literal handful of people complain that it looks like cosplay, but there's like some really ridiculous people out there who say that about literally any adaptation of literally anything. And it's just, I think those are just people who are complaining just for the sake of complaining. Because honestly, the argument that a movie costume looks like cosplay when cosplay has proven to be pretty damn amazing and really gotten costuming and stuff right in terms of anime characters and video game characters and etc etc, it's like that's not an insult. You understand that's not an insult, right? Saying something looks like cosplay is a massive compliment. But these people are just bitching just to bitch, so they don't care. They don't think about like logical anything behind what they're saying. Um, and again, I'm specifically talking about the people who are saying that the costumes and sets and all look like cosplay quality, because that again, that's not an insult. I'm not talking about people complaining about the story or the writing or dialogue or anything like that. Now, going into this, again, as a pretty casual fan, um, I have seen enough, especially through what I have seen of the second game, of all the various clips I've seen over the years, which has been quite a lot, as well as seeing the entirety and playing the entirety of the Tales of the Borderlands games, I know what this world looks like. I know what the character like designs kind of look like. I know enough lore and just what the things about the world and stuff to where it's like I'll be able to recognize a lot. And I'll be able to know if some things are accurate to the world of Borderlands, you could say. I won't be able to recognize everything in terms of lore and whatnot, obviously, but there's a lot. It's like, oh, this is a Skag? Well, this is what a Skag should look like. This is what a Skag should act like. Is it acting correct here? Is this what a Skag should be? Are these psychos? There's got to be psychos in here. They're kind of the face of the franchise, let's be honest. Are the psychos acting like psychos? Etc., etc. I believe Atlas is in this at one of the big companies in the series. Does this feel like how Atlas would act, what they would do, etc., etc.? Things like that I should be able to recognize. I've seen enough to where it's like, I would get that. It's more of a matter at this point of how well is it written and how enjoyable is it to watch. Plus, yeah, that's another thing, the tone. Because Borderlands does have a very specific tone that blends cool, badass action, goofy as fuck comedy, and the most utter ridiculousness you can imagine. If they can get the tone right, that's important. Even if not all the characters are portrayed as they normally are in the game, even if the story isn't the best written, I think if it's entertaining, that's kind of a big thing in and of itself for a adaptation of something like Borderlands. But I'm going to give it a chance, see what we have in store here, and hope for the best. Hopefully, it ends up at least being entertaining for me. It's all subjective anyway, so if I end up really loving it and other people still don't like it, that's fine. If other people end up, or if I end up hating it, that's fine too. It's like, I'm going to judge it based on my perspective. Not based on what other people think it should be, not based on what other people think the lore, the characters should be. I'm basing it on only my perspective here. So let's get into it and see what this movie has in store for us. Also, just real quick, this is a donation reward for Venom. I almost forgot to mention that, so thank you, Venom. But yeah, let's get into this. Cutting in here real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions with 2 on Wednesday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but I upload them on the weekend. And don't forget all the gaming content we have both on this channel and the secondary Princess of Gaming channel. We have Horizon Forbidden West every other day and Baldur's Gate 3 every single day on this channel, while we also have Nier Automata every Saturday on the other. And don't forget to click the link down in the description below to get to today's reaction. I redirected just due to copyright reasons. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you want to see more awesome content such as this. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get on to the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Sorry for my hair, jeez. That's what headphones does to your hair. Okay, so before anything, I want to go over some of the changes that were made between the games and the movie. I have a list here. So apparently, Lilith's siren powers coming late on in the film is actually very different from the game. I guess, like, yeah, according to this, in the original game, Lilith has some of her abilities from the onset of her adventures. So she already knows about her powers, she already has them. Her, like, learning about them is by the end of the film is new. Also, her powers being directly like connected to this like deity thing is apparently original. The movie mentioned only once the title Siren, but the sirens are more of like a notable thing in the games, and that's where her powers stem from. It's again not some goddess related thing. Da, 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 da. Let me see here. Oh, okay. Um, the next thing that of note is different is that apparently in the movie only a daughter of Iridia could open the vault, and that's just not how it is in the games. If you have a vault key, you can open a vault. You don't need to be like some special person, basically. So yeah, that was a big change as well. All you need is the vault key. That's all you need. Yeah, because it even mentions here the events of Borderlands and Tales from the Borderlands saw vaults opened by people without siren abilities. Basically, it seems like this change was made to bring a chosen one element to the movie that is just not in the games. The next one is Lilith and Roland's team is really different. Just the main Vault Hunters who are in it. Mordecai and Brick are absent from the film. And a lot of the other characters outside of like Roland and Lilith weren't Vault Hunters in the original game. Like Tiny Tina was a supporting character introduced in Borderlands 2 and has been in the games since. Krieg was in there, apparently obsessed with Maya in Borderlands 2. Tannis was a supporting character, but has never been playable, etc., etc. The next one is Claptrap being an actual member of the party is a big change, and obviously done because of Claptrap being seen as kind of almost a mascot of Borderlands. So there's that. But that's definitely not how he is in the game, and he doesn't have this like deep connection with Lilith. Tannis's age and connection to Lilith are different as well. Tannis is like younger in the games, and da, 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 da. It seems their connection was just entirely different. She also didn't venture into the field, which it seems like a lot of the characters are different there. Tina's origins are completely different. This was actually something I also specifically looked up. In this, Tina is like a clone created from supposed Iridian DNA, and it was created by Atlas. But in the games, she was not even connected to Atlas at all. She was connected to a different group, Hyperion, the same group that the same company that Handsome Jack owned. And she wasn't a clone at all. She was a regular person. Her and her parents were kidnapped by her Hyperion and used for experiments. Her parents died. She escaped with an explosive and, you know, kind of went insane from the entire experience. So it's entirely different. Larry, Bobby Lee's character, is just a completely original character. He's just not in the games. So there's that. Atlas, the character, not the company, wasn't the villain of the game either. So there's that big difference there. Because he's just not the villain of the game. So there's that. Apparently, in the games, Nox doesn't switch sides. So there's that. Yeah, Knox never has a change of heart and doesn't appear to have any deeper connection to Roland either. Knox in the film is more similar to Commandant Steele in the games. And, yeah, kind of the movie kind of only notes and explains that there's one vault, but in the games there's a lot of vaults. There's many on Pandora alone. It's just a big change. The point is, there's a lot of changes in this movie adaptation, which is expected. Whenever you make an adaptation of a video game or anything really, there has to be changes for the medium. Certain things that work in a video game will not work in a movie, whether from a narrative perspective or from the time of the time you have allotted for the film, etc., etc. There's stuff that's going to be changed, and then there's stuff that, is just going to be changed because it's an adaptation. Some things lore-wise, character-wise, that's expected. I mentioned, like, Tiny Tina in the games. I mean, outside of just the different backstory, is also, insane. Like, in here, she's kind of chaotic, but she's not really insane. She's not crazy. She has a semblance of sense to her. And those emotional moments, it's like the character in the game would not have those kind of moments. That wouldn't work for the game version of the character. It's basically like they took the idea of Tiny Tina and made her a lot more normal, for lack of a better word. They dialed back on her insanity by a lot. And this is going from someone who, again, is not the most familiar with her or just the series in general, a very casual fan. Someone who has only seen clips and stuff here and there, doesn't know everything. It's like, even I can tell that. Now that we've noted everything that's different, what do I think about this, just despite any differences, and just as a movie in general, in terms of just, is it well written, is it entertaining, is it well acted, etc.? And my thoughts on this are pretty much exactly what I thought they were going to be. What I figured was probably going to be the case based on past experiences and everything, and people, how people tend to react to stuff like this. If you are a major fan of the Borderlands franchise, and you went into this expecting it to be like 1-to-1, you're going to be disappointed. If you're expecting this for all the lore to be the same, all the characters to be an exact representation, yeah, you're going to be disappointed. I'm not one of those people. I didn't expect everything to be the same. I'm not a super fan of Borderlands. I went to this as a casual fan, and honestly, I thought it was good. It's not great. It's not perfect. There are definitely some cliches that are used in terms of the writing and whatnot, the dialogue and all, but honestly, cliches kind of work for Borderlands. Even if you only have a passing knowledge of the game series, Borderlands is big enough to where most people understand at least the vibe it gives off. And I think that the vibe of this movie was entirely accurate. This felt like Borderlands. This felt like a Borderlands story. It's just an alternate version of, like, the lore and story of the games and all, which I don't think is that big of a deal. Again, I didn't expect it to be like a 1-to-1. And that's fine. As long as it still gets the vibe, the feeling right, still has good acting and everything works, I think it's fine. And I think all of that is the case. Every actor did a great job. None of them felt like they didn't want to be there or anything. None of them felt like they were shoehorning in a performance. They all felt like they were having fun with it. They all felt good. I wouldn't say it's necessarily any of their best performance, except maybe Kevin Hart. I think this was one of Kevin Hart's better performances. But like Jamie Lee Curtis, not her best performance by any means. She was better in like stuff like Everything Everywhere All at Once, the Halloween movies, etc., etc. But I really didn't expect this to be her best performance either. And it was still good, so I'm not bothered by it. The visuals are something that I knew was going to be good because I've seen the trailers. All the costumes looked amazing. The sets looked amazing. This looked like Borderlands. Visually speaking, this was pretty spot on. Like practically 100% spot on in terms of the visuals. All the recognizable characters looked exactly like what they're supposed to look like. So much like just very recognizable iconography that was done extremely well. The soundtrack worked, and I think that it fit the vibe, like I said. Now, as for the writing, again, there were definitely some cliches in there. There are definitely some things that were not the best, but I wouldn't expect it all to be like spot on. The games aren't perfect. Like, nothing is perfect. If you go into a movie or a game or anything expecting it to be like 100% this masterpiece of filmmaking or game making or whatever, you're going to be disappointed. Even those few movies I have out there that I consider technically perfect, if I really dug deep enough, I could find something, I'm sure. They're just the movies that I consider to be, like, from a viewing experience, something I have zero issues with at all. Something that is so, so good, it is beyond anything else I have seen. That's how because nothing can be literally perfect. I mean, that's just not possible with how the human brain, how the human brain works. It doesn't work like that. Perfection is entirely unobtainable, entirely impossible. So, yeah, it's not going to happen. But even, like, just in general, it's like, this is well written. It's fine. Again, maybe not amazing, but it's good. There's nothing inherently bad about the way it's written. The dialogue is fine. The pacing is good. It has a lot of action. It's always keeping things interesting. It never gets slow, never gets boring, never gets monotonous or anything. It's not annoying. It's just, it's a perfectly good movie. And again, this is what I expected to think about this. Because whenever an adaptation of anything is made, people are going to hate on it, no matter what. There's always going to be haters, no matter what. Even with, like, mostly universally praised stuff, like the Sonic movies, there's still plenty of haters. But most of the complaints I've seen have stemmed around accuracies to the game or stuff more similar to that. I'm gonna have to like check out different reviews and stuff to see what people say, because I mean, outside of just the accuracies or inaccuracies to the game, because outside of that, I can't see any real issues. And again, unless like you're a super fan who went into this expecting it to be 1-to-1, it's like I don't see like a reason to hate on this. I definitely don't see a reason that it did as poorly as it did. Let me see if I can real quick bring up something here on my phone to see like at least a little bit of what people thought about it. I don't need to like look at every review, but I want to see at least something just to get a vibe for it, because this has a 10% on the tomato meter, and as always, take it with a grain of salt, because let's be honest, critic reviews are not pretty much ever accurate. But that's based on 159 reviews. The, let's be honest, more accurate, more reliable rating for the fans is still just 53%, though. Let me see if I can find some reviews in here. Okay, so one critic is mentioning that it's a cacophonous, crash and bang, not terribly interesting, CGI'd, hyper-violent movie. Okay, so it's exactly what it promised it was going to be. Everything about that is exactly what it was supposed to be from inception. I mean, if that's something you're not into, that's fine, but okay, this person says that the actors rarely seem to be enjoying each other's company, making it difficult to buy them as a eventual surrogate family, which and even compares them like Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think they're supposed to be seen in that same manner. I don't think you're supposed to look at them as a surrogate family in the same way you do as Guardians of the Galaxy. The only two characters you could really see that for are Tina and Lilith. Like, they're the ones who form that connection. Roland is basically there as a bodyguard. A bodyguard who, you know, is enjoying what he's doing and likes being on their side. But still, Krieg, same thing. He's there as a bodyguard and kind of like big brother, as she says, to Tina. But with his, like, you know, psycho personality and stuff, it's also not quite the same thing. Tanis is there because of her connection with Lilith. It's like they're not really a surrogate family. They're just like a bunch of misfits who are working together and have connections to each other. They like each other. They're more like friends. They're a friend group, not a surrogate family. It never tries to go into that level of things. This other person says it's painfully thin on plot and characterization, which I don't really think is true. This person says that it basically turned it into a glorified superhero movie, which just isn't the case. It wasn't a superhero movie at all. And as for audience reviews, which, let's be honest, are more reliable anyway. Okay, well, at least this person says costumes and makeup were great, so there's that. Wardrobe, set deck, and cinematographer blew it out of the water. So I'm seeing good stuff about all that, which is very fair and accurate. Okay, one person says it's not as bad as people are making it out to be, just set your expectations, which I guess fair. Succeeded neither as an action-adventure nor as fan service. I would call it more action-comedy than action-adventure. Good fun, even though they mashed up characters from different games and changed up the origins a bit. I mean, that's kind of how I view it. So there are definitely some people who liked it more than others. There are some people are just kind of saying it's like thinly plotted, which I've always thought is a stupid critique anyway, because what does that even mean? Because that is an argument that is entirely different for everyone. Whether a plot is thin or not, the idea that I always hear with that is that, like, people are saying, like, oh, a plot being thin basically means that it doesn't have depth. There's not a lot to it. It's very simple, basics. It's like the barest bones of a plot. But it's like, okay, so I've never seen anyone actually explain how a movie is thinly plotted, though. Everyone who says it just says it is, and they never go into any explanation for that. It's like, what do you mean by that? Why does this film have a thin plot, in your opinion? No one ever actually explains that. Like, anyone who says that about this movie, explain why. Because I don't see it. I think there's depth in the plot. I think that there's, I don't think it's thin at all by that definition. If you're talking about some other definition, I don't know. I can't help you there. But it's like, I don't get it. This movie, people were acting like this movie is like the worst movie that's come out in recent memory, and it's like it's not. It's not. I mean, again, it's all subjective. So if you really do think that, if you really hated this movie, you're entitled to that. That's your opinion, and you have every right to it. But I don't see it. I don't see how this movie was that bad. I think it was perfectly good. I had a great time. I enjoyed myself. I thought it was fun. And again, outside of some things being changed, which I expected anyway because it's an adaptation of something, I'm fine with it. Like, would I have liked to see Tiny Tina be more insane? Yes. I absolutely would have. I think that would have been better. But I'd say that this is like, I wouldn't put this below a 7 out of 10. I absolutely would not put this below a 7 out of 10. Saying this is like under a 7 out of 10 is inconceivable to me, honestly. It's like I also wouldn't put it above like an 8 out of 10, though. It's kind of right in that range, 7 to 8. No higher than 8, but no lower than 7. I think that it's quite perfectly nestled in there. It's a good movie. Not great, but good. I had a blast with it. It was fun. I enjoyed myself. And again, it never felt slow. It never felt poorly paced. Everything looked perfect. And it's like, I'm satisfied. I am perfectly satisfied with this. But tell me your thoughts down in the comments below. What did you think of this film? What did you think of the changes? Are you a fan of the Borderlands games? And let me know as well if you thought this was specifically as bad as people are saying or not. Again, it's all subjective, so if you do, that's fine. But I don't see it at all in any way, shape, or form. Let me know your thoughts down below, and for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.